Okay, so we come to part two of the pearl. Now, the news that Kino has found the pearl of the world has reached every corner of the town, and as we have seen, everyone begins to dream of the pearl. Now, the people in the town and in the village could not think of any other thing other than the pearl that Kino has found. Now, everyone begins to dream how the getting of this pearl can transform their life altogether. Now, when we come to the story, what we come to see is that without having any idea of others' jealousy, others' interests, others' greed, both Kino and Juana is happy in their good fortune. Now they have got all the people in the village in their hut, and they have all come to see the fortune that has happened to Kino. Now almost everyone is there to witness this newfound treasure. Now you can imagine the scene. You can imagine uh, Kino and Juana sitting with their baby Coyotito, and nearby Kino there is Juan Thomas, Kino's brother, his wife Apollonia, and their children. Now these people are Kino's immediate relatives. And now they are sitting inside the hut, and inside on the corners of the hut and outside uh, of the brush house, that is how you should name the house. Now on the insides of the house and in the corners of the brush house and outside, large number of people are gathered, and everyone there is eager to see Kino's pearl. Now, what happens is that Juan Thomas begins to ask Kino what he will do with the wealth that Kino would get on selling the pearl. So, Kino anyway will have to sell the pearl, and the selling of the pearl is going to earn him, or it is going to bring him lots and lots of money. So everyone is curious to know what Kino will do when he becomes rich. And now it is Juan Thomas who begins to question Kino regarding his plans as soon as he sells the pearl and earns a lot of money. Now Kino begins to detail his plan. ഇതൊന്ന് ഈ ഏരിയ ഒന്ന് ശ്രദ്ധിച്ചോണം. This can come up as a question. What are Kino's plans? Now Kino says that as soon as he will sell the pearl, he will get married in the church. So you have to know that Kino, Juan Thomas, as the name might indicate, and others, these tribal people are converted to Christianity. As an impact of colonization, these people are converted to Christianity. Most of the time, they are forcefully converted to Christianity, and they are Christians. And even though they are Christians, they are not allowed to take part in ceremonies. They are not allowed to take part in ceremonies because they do not have money to contribute to the church. Now, Kino, since he has become rich, now, since he will have money, he says that he will have money to pay for a ceremonial marriage. Now, this is his first plan. He says that he will get married in the church, and then he says that he will buy new clothing for his family, for himself, for Juana, and for Coyotito, especially for the ceremonial occasion. Now, it is not detailed here in the note, but Kino says that he will buy a sailor's suit for his son Coyotito. Sailorമാരൊക്കെ ധരിക്കുന്ന സ്യൂട്ട് ഉണ്ടല്ലോ. Now this is Kino's plan. He will get married in the church. He will buy new clothing for the occasion, especially a sailor's suit for his son, and then he says that he will buy a harpoon. ഈ ഹാർപൂൺ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് എ ടൂൾ ഓർ വെപ്പൺ ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് യൂസ്ഡ് ഫോർ ഫിഷിംഗ്. ഈ മീനെ ഇങ്ങനെ കുത്തി കൊന്നെടുക്കാനായിട്ട് ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്ന ഒരു 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 പോയിന്റ്, ഒരറ്റം ഷാർപ്പായിട്ടിരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു വെപ്പണാണ് ഹാർപൂൺ. He says that he will buy a harpoon, and he also says that he will buy a rifle, and he says that he will buy a number of other things. Now the people who stand surrounding Kino is really surprised to hear all this, because until then nobody among their community has ever owned a harpoon or a rifle, because none of them has got money. So they hear all these things with a lot of excitement and surprise, and they know that Kino might be able to buy all these things because the selling of this particular pearl, it is the pearl of the world, it is the biggest pearl ever, and they are sure that this will get Kino a lot of money, and they begin to think that all these things can be possible. And then, to their surprise, again Kino adds that in addition to all these things, he will send his son Coyote to school. Now, this is an even bigger surprise for the people standing there, because until then none of their children has ever gone to school. So they wouldn't even have imagined of that, because it is not possible to imagine that, because they could never afford to send their child to school. They are born as fishermen, and their only profession is fishing. So apart from that, they could never imagine about sending a child to school, making him learn to read and write. So when Kino says that he will send his son to school, the neighbors, the villagers gathered there are really surprised. Kino says that he will get his son educated. Now they all wonder at Kino's boldness, because it needed courage and it needed boldness. Apart from that, it needed money to dream such big dreams. And they wonder if Kino is foolish or really wise to dream such big dreams. Because for some time they wonder whether Kino is practical. They wonder whether all these things will be possible. But then they believe that again this pearl can bring him a lot of money, and these things might in fact be possible. But anyhow, what you have to know is that when Kino begins to talk about all these plans, they are really surprised. They are really surprised and they are really excited. So ഈ ഭാഗം ഒന്ന് ഓർത്ത് വെച്ചേക്കണം, Kino's plans, that he will get married in the church, he will buy new clothes, he will buy a harpoon, a rifle, and he also adds that in addition to this, he will send his son Coyote to school. Now, what happens is that towards evening, the local priest arrives, and you might know the intention. The local priest arrives and he tells Kino that he has heard of his fortune and he wants to see the pearl. Now, Kino allows him to see the pearl, and he is really shocked and surprised and excited to see the pearl. Now, the priest reminds Kino that this pearl has come to Kino as part of God's blessing, and he tells him that when he becomes rich, he should remember to pay thanks to the God. And paying thanks to the God can only be done by paying the church. Okay, so of course, the priest has arrived to get some donation. So the priest reminds Kino that he should remember that he is a Christian. He should remember that he belongs to the church, he belongs to the community. And he says that Kino should remember to offer thanks to the God who has helped him to get the pearl. Now, Juana tells the priest that they have decided to get married in the church. And this really makes the priest happy, because there he says that the first thoughts are good thoughts, and he is really happy to hear that they have remembered the church and they have decided to get married. Now, offering his blessings, the priest departs. Okay, now soon after the priest departs comes the doctor. He comes to the brush house of Kino. This is happening for the first time, because he never comes to these people, not even he cares them. But the news that Kino has got the pearl of the world has brought the doctor to the brush house. And he tells a lie. He says that he was away when Coyotito came to his house. He had to go to an emergency case. He had to go to attend an emergency case. And now that he has come back to his house, he has immediately decided to come to look after the child. And now Kino declines his offer. Okay, even though the doctor says that he is ready to look after the child, Kino declines the offer. He says that the child is already well. Now, what happens is that the doctor says that even though the child might be feeling better, there is the possibility of infection. He says that the poison must have got really deep into the child, and anytime the child can show signs of infection and the condition of the child can become worse. Now, since Kino is ignorant, he begins to believe the words of the doctor. Now, the doctor says that in order to prove this, he can give the child a capsule. He says that he will give the child a capsule, and if there is infection in the child would begin to show signs of it. കാര്യം മനസ്സിലായോ? അതായത് ഡോക്ടർ പറയുന്നത് എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ പുറമേ സുഖമാണെങ്കിലും എന്തിൻ്റെ പോസിബിലിറ്റി ഉണ്ട്, ഇൻഫെക്ഷൻ്റെ പോസിബിലിറ്റി ഉണ്ട്. അത് ഡെമോൺസ്ട്രേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് ഞാൻ എന്ത് തരാം, ഞാൻ ഈ കുഞ്ഞിനൊരു ഒരു ടാബ്ലറ്റ് കൊടുക്കാം. അത് ഉള്ളിൽ ചെല്ലുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും അകത്ത് ഇൻഫെക്ഷൻ ഉണ്ടെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ദ ചൈൽഡ് വുഡ് ബിഗിൻ ടു ഷോ സൈൻസ് ഓഫ് ഇറ്റ്. Now what happens is that he gives the child the capsule and then he says that he would come back in an hour. Okay, ഞാൻ ഒരു മണിക്കൂർ കഴിഞ്ഞ് വരാം, പ്രോബ്ലം ഒന്നും ഇല്ലെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ okay, but possibilities are there that the child might have got infected, and he departs. Now what happens is that as soon as the baby takes the tablet, he grows violently ill. His condition becomes really bad. Okay, ഈ ഫിറ്റ്സ് പോലൊക്കെ വരത്തില്ലേ? സോ ദ ചൈൽഡ് ഹാസ് ഗോട്ട് സ്പാസം എന്നാണ് പറയുന്നത്, ഫിറ്റ്സ് എന്നുള്ളതിന് ഈ വിറയിൽ പോലൊക്കെ കാണിക്കുക. ദ ചൈൽഡ് ബിഗിൻസ് ടു ഷോ സൈൻസ് ഓഫ് സ്പാസംസ് ആൻഡ് കീനോ ഹാസ് ഗോട്ട് സം കൈൻഡ് ഓഫ് ആൻ ഇൽ ഫീലിംഗ്. ഓക്കെ, സോ ഉള്ളിൻ്റെ ഉള്ളിൽ നിന്ന് കീനോയ്ക്ക് ഒരു ഫീലിംഗ് വരുന്നു ദാറ്റ് സംതിങ് ബാഡ് ഈസ് റിയലി ഗോയിങ് ടു ഹാപ്പൻ, ആൻഡ് ഹി ഫീൽസ് എ ബിറ്റ് സസ്പീഷ്യസ് ഓഫ് the doctor's presence. So what he does is that he buries the pearl in a corner of his house. Okay, a pearl edutittu endu cheyunu, he buries it in under the floor in a corner of the house. Now after an hour the doctor returns and he says that see, the condition of the child has become worse. This indicates that the child has got infection, and poor Kino believes whatever the doctor says. Now what happens is that the doctor gives coyote to a potion എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് നമ്മൾ ഈ സിറപ്പ് എന്നൊക്കെ പറയത്തില്ലേ, ഓക്കെ, ഒരു ലിക്വിഡ് മെഡിസിൻ ആണ് പോഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ഹി ഗിവ്സ് കോയോട്ടി ടു എ പോഷൻ ടു ക്വൈറ്റ് ഹിസ് സ്പാസംസ് ആൻഡ് ഇറ്റ് വർക്ക്സ്. ഓക്കെ, സോ ഇതെല്ലാം പ്രീ പ്ലാൻഡ് ആണ് in order to demonstrate that he has done something for the child, in order to demonstrate that he has saved the life of the child. So this is a drama pre-planned by the doctor. So now he gives a potion to the child and the child becomes all right. Now since he has made the child feel better, now since he has cured the child, he demands payment. And when the doctor demands payment, Kino says that he will make the payment as soon as he sell his large pearl. And while he says this, he inadvertently means accidentally, he accidentally glances in the direction where he has buried the pearl. Now ഈ കോൺവെർസേഷൻ നടക്കുന്ന സമയത്ത് അറിയാതെ എവിടേക്ക് നോക്കുന്നു, താൻ ആ പേൾ കുഴിച്ചിട്ട ഭാഗത്തേക്ക് അറിയാതെ നോക്കിപ്പോകുന്നു. Now the doctor is very intelligent. Of course he has got the hint where the pearl is. Definitely he must have got hint regarding where Kino has kept the pearl, but he does not show anything on his face. Now what he does is that he tells Kino that there is some risk in Kino keeping the pearl in his brush house. ഇത്രയും ചെറിയൊരു കുടിലിൽ ഇത്രയും അമൂല്യമായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു സംഭവം വെക്കുന്നതിൽ കുറച്ച് റിസ്ക് ഉണ്ടെന്ന് ആര് പറയുന്നു? ഡോക്ടർ പറയുന്നു. And he offers to keep the pearl in his personal custody until Kino decides to sell it at the town. അതായത് നീ ടൗണിൽ അത് വിൽക്കുന്നത് വരെ ഞാൻ എന്ത് ചെയ്യാം, ഞാനിത് എൻ്റെ കസ്റ്റഡിയിൽ നിനക്ക് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് സൂക്ഷിക്കാം എന്ന് ഡോക്ടർ പറയുന്നു. ബട്ട് കീനോ ഡിക്ലൈൻസ് ഓഫർ. ഓക്കെ, കീനോ ഡിക്ലൈൻസ് ഓഫർ ആൻഡ് ദ ഡോക്ടർ ഡിപ്പാർട്സ്. നൗ ആസ് സൂൺ ആസ് ദ ഡോക്ടർ ഡിപ്പാർട്സ്, Kino has got an uneasy feeling. Okay, so he now for the first time he feels really insecure. Now maybe it is from the appearance of the doctor, his gestures, his mannerisms. Kino know that he is in some form of risk and he prepares himself to safeguard the pearl better. Okay, so Kino becomes alerted. He knows that he should safeguard the pearl and he prepares for that. Now what he does is that before going to bed he reburies the pearl and keeps it under his sleeping mat. So ഒരു സെൻസ് ഓഫ് ഇൻസെക്യൂരിറ്റി തോന്നിയതുകൊണ്ട് എവിടെയാണോ ആ പേൾ കുഴിച്ചിട്ടത് അവിടെ നിന്ന് he reburies it and he keeps it under his pillow. Now that night when Kino, Coyotito and Juana are sleeping, Kino is wakened up by the sound of someone digging at the corner of his house. ആരോ തൻ്റെ വീടിൻ്റെ ചുവരിന് താഴെ കുഴിക്കുന്ന ശബ്ദം കേട്ടിട്ട് എന്ത് ചെയ്യുന്നു? കീനോ ഇരുട്ടത്ത് ഉണരുന്നു. Now what he does is that he jumps upon the intruder, and what follows up is a fight between this intruder and Kino, and in that fight Kino is wounded but he succeeds in chasing away the criminal. Okay, അയാൾ അക്രമിയെ ഓടിച്ചു വിടുന്നതിൽ കീനോ വിജയിക്കുന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ പോലും Kino is badly wounded and he begins to bleed. Okay, so from the wounds he is bleeding, and Juana, upon seeing this, is really terrified, and she proposes that they should abandon the pearl. കീനോ ഇങ്ങനെ ചോരയൊക്കെ ഒലിപ്പിച്ച് നിൽക്കുന്ന കണ്ടപ്പോഴത്തേക്കും ഒരു ഹുവാനയ്ക്ക് തൻ്റെ ഉള്ളിൽ നിന്ന് there is a sort of bad feeling. She begins to think that this pearl is going to bring them bad luck, even though at first they thought that this would bring them good luck. Even though they thought that this is going to bring them a lot of fortune, for the first time Juana has a feeling that this pearl is going to bring them bad luck. She begins to consider the pearl as an agent of evil. Now, since the intruder was digging at a corner of the house, you can assume that, or you can in fact believe that he must have been sent by the doctor, because we have seen how Kino accidentally looks at the corner where he has buried the pearl while he was having the conversation with the doctor, and so this fellow must have been sent by the doctor himself. Anyway, Kino succeeds in chasing away the criminal, but he has got a feeling of insecurity, not only him, Juana as well, and we have seen how Juana begins to believe that this pearl is an agent of evil and it is going to bring them bad luck. Now, what happens is that as Kino has decided, Kino and Juana, along with Kino's brother Juan Thomas, Apollonia, and others in the village, sets out to sell the pearl. Okay, so തീരുമാനിച്ചതുപോലെ കീനോയും ഹുവാനയും പേൾ വിൽക്കാനായിട്ട് പോകുന്നു. Now they are accompanied by Kino's brother and his wife, and as you can expect, the whole village is following them to see what is going to happen as Kino puts the pearl for sale. Now, you have to understand the kind of setup they have in the town for the trading of these pearls. So there are different shops in the town where you can sell the pearl. So these uh, fishermen are in the habit, or these pearl divers are in the habit of taking their findings to these shops, and they would quote an amount and they will have to uh, uh, settle for that amount because there is nothing else they can do. പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് അതൊന്നും ചെയ്യാൻ അവർക്ക് അവസരമില്ല. സോ ഈ പേളുകൾ തുച്ഛമായിട്ടുള്ള പേളുകളാണ് പൊതുവെ കിട്ടാറുള്ളത്. അതുകൊണ്ട് ചെല്ലുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും these shopkeepers will quote an amount and they will have to trade these pearls for whatever they offer, because they have no other way. After all, these people are poor tribals and they do not have got a voice of their own, so they will have to settle for whatever amount they offer. Now, another interesting thing is that there are a number of shops for the trading of these pearls, and all these different shops are put there by the same person. All these shops belong to the same person, and he has put these different shops in order to give the semblance of a competition. ഒരു കച്ചവടത്തിന്റെ മത്സരം നടക്കുന്നുണ്ടെന്ന് ആളുകളെ ചുമ്മാ കബളിപ്പിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണ് എന്ത് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നത്, പല കടകൾ ഇട്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്. ആൻഡ് അഗെയിൻ ദിസ് വിൽ ഹെൽപ്പ് ഹിം ടു ബിഡ് ദ ലോവസ്റ്റ് എമൗണ്ട്. എന്താന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഈ കൊണ്ടുവരുന്ന സാധനങ്ങൾക്ക് ഏറ്റവും തുച്ഛമായിട്ടുള്ള വില ബിഡ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് ഇത് അയാളെ സഹായിക്കും. കാരണം ആദ്യം ഒരു ഷോപ്പിലേക്ക് കൊണ്ടുവരുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും ഹി വിൽ ബിഡ് എ ലോ എമൗണ്ട്, എന്നിട്ട് എന്ത് പറയും, വേണമെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങൾ അപ്പുറം ഇപ്പുറമൊക്കെ ഉള്ള കടകളിൽ ചോദിച്ചു നോക്കിക്കോളൂ എന്ന് പറയും. സോ അപ്പുറത്തെ കടയിലേക്ക് ചെല്ലുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും the shopkeeper there represents the same person and he will bid an even lower amount. So they will have to settle for the first offer. Exactly the same thing happened when Kino and Juana, along with Juan Thomas and Apollonia, went to sell the pearl. Now on their way, Juan Thomas has already warned Kino of cheating. He says that Kino has to be careful of cheats. But anyhow, the same thing happened. Upon arriving at the first shop, he offered Kino an amount of 1,000 pesos. I'll demonstrate it here. pesos എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഒരു ഫ്രഞ്ച് കറൻസിയാണ്. ഓക്കെ, സോ upon arriving at the first shop, the shopkeeper offered 1,000 pesos, and this really angered Kino because Kino knew that this was a substantially low amount. Now Kino was really angered, and what he does is that he takes it to the next shop. Now when he goes to the next shop and the third one, both of them even disagrees to take the pearl. They say that this is in fact not a great pearl. They say that it can be a good piece for museum, but is not good enough to be put or used as an ornament. Okay, so what they do is that they devalues the pearl, they degrades the pearl, saying that the the pearl is not at all good enough to be taken in for business. So the first shopkeeper offered 1,000 pesos, the second and third shopkeepers declined to take the pearl, and eventually Kino ends up at the fourth shop, and there they offer him 500 pesos. And Kino is greatly upset, and what he does is that he declares that he is not going to sell the pearl. He says that he is going to take it to the capital city. Okay, so he says that he is going to take the pearl to the capital, and at the capital there would be genuine shops. He says that he is going to sell his pearl there. And now when Kino makes this decision, this goes against the plans of the shopkeepers. They know that they have done something wrong, and what they do is that, as a compensation, one of the shopkeepers, the first shopkeepers, offers 1,500 pesos. But Kino is not at all ready to accept that offer. Now, he is adamant that he will take the pearl to the capital to get its real worth. അതിൻ്റെ യഥാർത്ഥ വില കിട്ടാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് കിനോ ക്യാപിറ്റലിൽ പോകുമെന്ന് ഡിസൈഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നു. ഓക്കെ, so what happens is that Kino, along with others, they come back to Kino's brush house, and both Kino and Juana prepares to set out to the capital the following morning. അടുത്ത ദിവസം രാവിലെ ക്യാപിറ്റലിലേക്ക് പോകാനായിട്ട് വേണ്ട തയ്യാറെടുപ്പുകളൊക്കെ ആര് ചെയ്യുന്നു? കീനോയും ഹ്വാനയും ചെയ്യുന്നു. Now the people in the village believe that Kino is in fact greedy. Most of them consider that 1,500 pesos was in fact a good amount, even though they know that Kino is getting cheated, even though they know that the shopkeepers are cheating Kino, but still they believe that Kino should have settled for that amount because they have got limitations as tribal people. So they think that Kino should stick on to his limitations. Kino should understand his position, and they believe that whatever Kino is planning to do is beyond his limits. Now, maybe Juan Thomas is also thinking the same, and that is why the moment when Kino and Juana prepares to leave to the capital city, Juan Thomas cautions Kino against greed. He tells that it is a good thing to go to the capital to try his luck, but he says that Kino should not be overtly uh, um, ambitious. He says that he should be careful of greed. Now, at this moment, Juana again expresses her desire to get rid of the pearl. Again, she expresses her feelings, her ill feelings, that this pearl is somehow going to bring them bad luck. He uh, 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 requests Kino to get rid of the pearl, but Kino silences her. What Kino says is that he tells Juana that he is a man. He says that I am a man and I am capable of taking care of things. Okay, so with a kind of manly gut, with a kind of uh, 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 manly pride, with the pride of being a man, Kino silences Juana and says that he knows how to take care of things. Now, what happens is that they go to bed, and the next morning they are going to set out to the capital. And what happens is that at night, when Kino is sleeping, Juana takes the pearl and steals away with that to the beach. Now, Kino കിടന്നുറങ്ങുന്ന സമയത്ത് Juana steals the pearl and she goes to the beach in order to throw it back to the sea. Now, few moments later, Kino wakes up and he gets out of the house and he finds Juana going to the beach with a pearl in her hand, sorry. Now, the moment she is about to throw the pearl to the sea, he catches her, he tackles her, he beats her violently, and leaves her lying on the beach. Okay, so കടലിലേക്ക് അത് വലിച്ചെറിയാൻ തുടങ്ങുന്ന ആ മൊമെന്റിൽ he catches her. Now he takes back the pearl from her hand, and apart from that, he beats her. And he beats her for the first time in his life. Until then, Kino was completely a family man. For him, his wife was the most important thing in his life. He had never even thought of beating her. Between Kino and Juana, until then, there was perfect understanding, there was perfect chemistry. But now, what happened was that the whole relationship has got cracks in it because of the pearl. The pearl has started to divide Kino and Juana. Until then, they were one mind, they were one thought, they were one family. Okay, but now they are divided, they have got a difference of opinion regarding the pearl, and this episode is really important because here it demonstrates how the pearl in fact seems like an agent of evil. Instead of promising something really big for their life, instead of promising something really positive, this is going to turn things for the worse in their life. And so what happens is that he catches hold of Juana, he beats her, he snatches the pearl from her hand and leaves her lying on the beach. Now, what happens is that as Kino returns to the brush house with the pearl in his hand, a group of men confronts him and tries to take the pearl away from him by force. They attack him, and Kino has to fight them. He fights back, he fights the men off, he chases them away. But what happens is that in process, he kills one of them, and he himself is also greatly wounded. And in the midst of that fight, he drops the pearl somewhere. And what happens is that when Juana returns from the beach, as she comes back to the brush house, she finds the pearl lying on the path, and just some distance away she finds Kino on the ground, heavily wounded, and she sees that he is lying close to a dead man. Now, as Juana comes near Kino, Kino expresses his grief at having lost the pearl. Now, Juana നടന്ന് കീനോയുടെ അടുത്ത് വരുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും തനിക്ക് മുറിവേറ്റതോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഹുവാനയെ തല്ലിയതോ ഒന്നുമല്ല കീനോയുടെ വിഷമം. He expresses his sorrow at having lost the pearl. And now Juana presents the pearl back to him. Pearl നഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടു എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ് നിലവിളിക്കാൻ തുടങ്ങുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും Juana hands over the pearl back to him, and Kino is really happy to have the pearl back. Now, when Juana questions him about the attack, Kino says that he had no intention to kill, but Juana says that even though he had no intention to kill, he must have, even though he has killed the man by accident, she says that from this moment onwards, Kino will be labeled as a murderer. Okay, അറിഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ടല്ല ഇന്റൻഷനലി അല്ല കൊന്നതെങ്കിൽ പോലും കീനോ ഈ മൊമെന്റ് തൊട്ട് എന്താണ്, he is a criminal, he is someone who has committed murder. Now they know that there is no other way than fleeing. They will have to escape from the hands of the administrators. They will have to leave the village. Now what happens is that both Juana and Kino decides to leave, and Juana goes back to the brush house to gather Coyotito and their belongings, while Kino rushes back to the shore to prepare the canoe. രക്ഷപ്പെടാനായിട്ട് അവരുടെ ബോട്ടിലെ രക്ഷപ്പെടാനായിട്ട് പറ്റത്തുള്ളൂ. So Kino goes to the beach to prepare his canoe, and Juana returns back to the brush house to get Coyotito and some of their immediate belongings. Now, what happens is that as soon as Kino arrives at the shore to set up his canoe so as they can escape, he finds that his canoe has been destroyed by vandals. ഈ വാൻഡൽസ് എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ നമ്മൾ അക്രമികൾ എന്നൊക്കെ പറയത്തില്ലേ, അതിനെയാണ് വാൻഡൽസ്, ഗൂൺസ്, ക്രിമിനൽസ് എന്നൊക്കെ ഉള്ളതാണ്. സോ ആസ് കീനോ അറൈവ്സ് അറ്റ് ദ ബീച്ച് ടു പ്രിപ്പയർ ഹിസ് കനു for them to escape, he finds that his canoe has been destroyed by vandals. Now this gives Kino enough evidence to understand that there is some form of attack that is being organized upon him. തനിക്ക് എതിരായിട്ട് വളരെ ആസൂത്രിതമായിട്ട് അക്രമങ്ങൾ നടക്കുന്നുണ്ട് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നടക്കാൻ പോകുന്നു എന്നൊക്കെ ഉള്ളൊരു ഹിന്റ് ആർക്ക് കിട്ടുന്നുണ്ട്, കീനോയ്ക്ക് കിട്ടുന്നുണ്ട്. സോ വാട്ട് ഹി ഡസ് ഈസ് ദാറ്റ് he climbs a nearby mound. ഇവിടെ നോട്ടിൽ ഹിൽ എന്നാണ്, it's a nearby mound on the beach. He climbs a nearby mound on the beach to check on Juana and Coyotito. So he climbs a hill to see whether Juana and Coyotito is safe. And now when he climbs the hill, what he sees is a fire blazing where his hut has been. Okay, so he finds fire blazing uh, at, at his brush house, and he understands that somebody has put his house on fire. നൗ അത് കാണുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും ആ കുന്നിലേക്ക് കയറുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും കാണുന്നത് എവിടെയാണോ തൻ്റെ ബ്രഷ് ഹൗസിൽ നിന്നത് അവിടെ തീ കത്തി ആളുന്നതാണ് കാണുന്നത്. ആൻഡ് ഹി അണ്ടർസ്റ്റാൻഡ്സ് ദാറ്റ് സംബഡി ഹാസ് പുട്ട് ഹിസ് ഹൗസ് ഓൺ ഫയർ. Now very soon both Juana and Coyotito arrives, and Kino knows that they should hide somewhere. There is no way for them to escape. So what happens is that Kino, Juana and Coyotito takes refuge at the house of his brother Juan Thomas. So രക്ഷപ്പെടാൻ പഴുതില്ല, താൻ ഒരു വളയപ്പെട്ട അവസ്ഥയിലാണ് എന്നൊക്കെ ഉള്ളത് കിനോയ്ക്ക് മനസ്സിലാകുന്നു. സോ ഹി ഹാസ് ടു hide somewhere, and so he ducks into the house of his brother Juan Thomas, and there they hide for the rest of the day. Now what happens is that when it comes to night, at nightfall, when the time is dark, Kino, Juana and Coyotito escapes. They know that the time is safe for them to travel, and they set out in the direction of the capital. So they take a road that skirts the town. Skirt here means town na chutti ingane kadakana. So they take a coastal road aanu. They take the coastal road skirting the town, and they travel north until sunrise, and then they take shelter by the roadside. So it is not safe for them to travel during daytime. So Kino's plan is to travel during night and then hide during the entire time of the day. പകൽ മുഴുവനും എവിടെയെങ്കിലും ഹൈഡ് ചെയ്യുക, ദെൻ രാത്രി കാലത്ത് സഞ്ചരിക്കുക എന്നുള്ളതാണ് ആരുടെ പ്ലാൻ, കീനോയുടെ പ്ലാൻ. സോ they traveled all through the night, and when it came to daybreak, they take secret shelter by the roadside. Now they sleep for the most of the time during day, and then they are again preparing to set out during the following night. പകൽ മുഴുവനും ഒളിത്താവളത്തിൽ കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് they are preparing to travel again the following night. അടുത്ത ദിവസം രാത്രിയാകുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും പുറപ്പെടാനായിട്ട് തയ്യാറെടുക്കുമ്പോഴാണ് Kino finds that they are being chased by 3 trackers. Trackers എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഹണ്ടേഴ്സ് ആണ്. ഈ മണം പിടിച്ച് ആളെ കണ്ടെത്താൻ കഴിവുള്ള ഹണ്ടേഴ്സിനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ ട്രാക്കേഴ്സ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ആൻഡ് they often use dogs for tracking. ഇരകളെ കണ്ടെത്താൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് they often use the help of dogs. Now as they are preparing to travel again the following night, Kino discovers that there are 3 trackers chasing them. Now after hesitating for a brief moment, Kino does not know what exactly to do. He thinks for a while, and then he decides that he must climb a nearby mountain, okay, in order to escape the eyes of the trackers. In order to elude the trackers, Kino decides to climb a mountain, and what we see is that Kino, along with Juana and Coyotito, they climb a part of the mountain until they come to a water source. So mountain de kurai bhagam climb ചെയ്ത് കഴിയുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും they come to a water source. It's just ഈ നമ്മൾ ഈ അരുവി എന്നൊക്കെ പറയത്തില്ലേ, so ഉറവ എന്നൊക്കെ പറയുന്ന സംഭവമാണ്. They come to a watering hole, and close to that watering hole, close to that source of water, there is a cave. And now Kino decides to stay inside the cave until the trackers go along. So until he decides to stay there until the trackers are gone. So apart from this, Kino again prepares a plan. Now what Kino prepare ചെയ്യുന്ന പ്ലാൻ എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ he plans to prepare a false trail. ഇവിടെ സ്ക്രീനിൽ കാണാം നിങ്ങൾക്ക്. ഈ ഫോൾസ് ട്രെയിൽ എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ കാൽപ്പാടുകളാണ്. സോ ഈ ട്രാക്കേഴ്സിനെ മിസ്ലീഡ് ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് മൗണ്ടന്റെ മറ്റൊരു ഭാഗത്ത് ഓക്കെ കീനോ എന്ത് ചെയ്യുന്നു, ഈ ഫോൾസ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള കാൽപ്പാടുകൾ ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നു. സോ ഇൻ ഓർഡർ ടു മിസ്ലീഡ് the trackers. So even if the trackers come up the mountain, they would go following the footsteps, and so Kino thinks that he can mislead the tracker. So he goes out alone and he creates a false trail in order to mislead the trackers. Now, in the meantime, after creating this false trail, Kino comes back, and Kino, along with his wife Juana and their child Coyotito, hide in the cave, and they wait for an opportunity to escape, or to escape the eyes of the trackers. Now, the trackers who were following Kino, even though they were a bit slow in their tracking, they eventually arrive at the place Kino has settled. So, at around late evening, that is at dusk, they come near the cave where Kino, Uhana, and Coyote are hiding, and they prepare a camp in order to rest nearby. So, near to the cave, they prepare a camp to rest. Now, what happens is that two of the trackers sleep while the third one stands guard. കാര്യം മനസ്സിലായല്ലോ. So eventually the trackers, they also climb the mountain, they come near the cave and they camp there. And since it is a time to take rest, since it is near night, they decide to take rest. So they are near the cave, they camp there, and two of the men sleep while the third is awake guarding them. Now Kino should do something. He know that they are under threat, the threat is close by, and now what Kino decides is that before they would catch them, he should attack them back. Okay, തങ്ങളെ പിടികൂടുന്നതിന് മുൻപ് it will be better to attack them. And now he realizes that this is the best time because two of them are sleeping, and he decides to attack them before they might catch them. Now Kino prepares for the attack, and we find Kino removing his dress in order to avoid being sighted. So he takes off his clothes, he is naked, and he walks cautiously, and he moves stealthily towards the place the men are resting. So he moves very carefully, stealthily, and he comes to a point where he can attack them. Okay, so he comes close to striking distance. He is not far away from them, and he prepares to attack. Now, just at the moment when Kino prepares to attack, Coyotito lets out a cry. Kino attack ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് തയ്യാറെടുക്കുന്ന ആ മൊമെന്റിൽ കൊയോട്ടിറ്റോ കുഞ്ഞല്ലേ, he lets out a cry, and his cry wakes the sleeping trackers. ആ കരച്ചിലിന്റെ ഒച്ച കേട്ട് the trackers, they wake up, and the moment they wake up, one of them fires his rifle in the direction of the cry. ആ കരച്ചിൽ കേട്ട ദിക്കിലേക്ക് എന്ത് ചെയ്യുന്നു, he fires his rifle. Right at the moment when he fires the rifle, Kino jumps upon them, he attacks them, and in the sequence, at the end of the sequence of a violent fight, he kills the trackers. Okay, so there is a violent fight among the four. Kino is so furious, he knows that something bad must have happened because of the gunshot. So in that violent fury, in that violent anger, he attacks the trackers and he kills them all. Now what happens is that after killing the trackers, he comes back to the cave only to realize the truth that the rifle shot has struck and killed his son. Okay, so fight ഒക്കെ കഴിഞ്ഞ് തിരിച്ചു വരുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും he comes to realize that the gunshot has struck and killed Coyote too. Now he has lost what he was trying to protect. Now he did everything right from the beginning of the hunting of the pearl. He did it all for his son. He went into the open sea to fish for pearls so that he could earn enough money to protect his son. And then he got the pearl. And then he began to dream, a big dream. And his biggest dream was to educate his son. He wanted to have him educated. He wanted to make him learn, read, and write. And he did everything. He wanted to get more and more money for the pearl so that he could accomplish his dream. And now that dream has ended. Now what happens is that on the next morning, Kino and Juana makes their way back to their village. They walk along the road, they come back to their village, they enter the coastal area, they come to their brush houses, they walk alongside the brush houses, and they proceed to the beach. And on the shoulder of Juana, you can see the dead coyotito hanging from a sling. So ഒരു ഭാണ്ഡം പോലെ കെട്ടിയിട്ട് from the shoulders of Juana you can find coyotito hanging on a sling. So carrying the body of their dead son on her back, they walk along the beach, they come to the seashore, and as people look at them with fascination and curiosity, they come to the beach, and as soon as they come to the beach, Kino pulls the pearl out of his clothing. So it must have been hidden somewhere inside his dress. He pulls the pearl out. He takes one long last look at the pearl, and then with all his might, under a setting sun, he throws the pearl back to the sea. നേരെ നടന്ന് തീരത്തേക്ക് വന്ന് തൻ്റെ ഭാണ്ഡത്തിനുള്ളിൽ നിന്ന് തൻ്റെ വസ്ത്രത്തിനുള്ളിൽ നിന്ന് ആ പേൾ എടുത്ത് അതിലേക്ക് അവസാനമായിട്ട് ഒന്ന് നോക്കിയിട്ട് with all his might he throws the pearl back to the sea. And that is where Steinbeck brings the novel to a close. Okay, so you can interpret this story in a multiple ways. On one side, the story is all about deception. Okay, you can see how a poor, ignorant fisherman called Kino has been deceived by the public. Okay, you can see how he has been deceived by the public, especially the upper class, especially the whites, who has been deceiving Kino and his generation for centuries. നൂറ്റാണ്ടുകളോളം കീനോയെയും കീനോയുടെ തലമുറകളെയും ചൂഷണം ചെയ്തവരാണ് കൊളോണിയലിസ്റ്റ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ആൻഡ് ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് എ സ്റ്റോറി ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് കണ്ടിന്യൂയിങ്. അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു തുടർച്ച തന്നെയാണ് ഇവിടെയും നമ്മൾ കാണുന്നത്. വി ഫൈൻഡ് ഹൗ ആൻ ഇഗ്നോറൻറ്റ് ഫിഷർമാൻ, എ ട്രൈബൽ, has been deceived by the colonialists, a story that has been continuing for generations. Now again, since Steinbeck says that this is a parable, you can interpret the story in another way, as a story of good and bad, of right and wrong, of justice and injustice. Now if you look at Kino from one side, everything about Kino is right. He deserves the pearl, and he should sell it at a deserving price, and he should have earned the deserving amount of money, and all of his dreams must have been fulfilled. But the society, the system, everything has gone against him. On other side, you can look at Kino as an ambitious man. Ambition often leads man to destruction. Ambition can often lead you to tragedy. Now Kino, a tribal who has got his limitations, again you cannot blame a man for dreaming, but you must be careful when you dream too big. Here Kino could have settled for 1,500 pesos that was offered by the shopkeeper. Even though they were attempting to cheat him, he could have accepted that decent amount of money, and he could have made use of that money, and he could have happily lived with that money. But Kino was too ambitious. Now, being too ambitious, he had to meet with tragedy. You can interpret the story that way. Uh, Again, you can examine all the goods and bads in the story, all the ethical and unethical things in the story. The doctor, you can question his ethics. As a doctor, he has got medical ethics. He should follow medical ethics, but we see how he is hungry for money. We have seen how he declines to treat the child when he comes to know that Kino, the tribal, does not have got any money with him. We can see the way he brushes aside the 8 simple pearls that has been offered by Kino. And again we get to see how he becomes hungry for money, or how he becomes dog-like when he comes to know that Kino has got the pearl of the world. Okay, so he is servile to materialism. All his dreams, all his thoughts are connected to materialism. So for material greed he would do anything. So you can think about all those unethical things. So you can talk about how unethical the pearl traders in the town are. So you can always blame the outside world. You can think how ethical Juana is. Okay, the noblest character in the story is Juana. You can again Kino, you can talk about the work ethics of Kino. Kino is a hard working man. He has preserved the canoe that has been handed over to him uh, by his forefathers. So he safeguards his canoe, he looks after his wife, he looks after his child. You can talk about the ethics of Kino as a fisherman as well as a husband and father. You can talk about the ethics of Juana as a mother. Now you can again talk about how simple these people are, how innocent these people are. And on the other side, you can talk about how corrupted the outside world is, how full of corruption uh, is there in the society, how the whole society is corrupted, how the whole society is full of jealousy. So this is a story that deals with simple emotions, feelings that are quite natural among human beings. So മറ്റു രീതിയിൽ പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഇറ്റ് ഇൻഫാക്ട്സ് കട്ട്സ് ഓപ്പൺ ഹ്യൂമാനിറ്റിയെ കട്ട് ഓപ്പൺ ചെയ്തിട്ട് അതിൻ്റെ ബേസിക് ഇൻസ്റ്റിങ്സ് ആണ് കാണിക്കുന്നത്. ഓക്കെ, ബേസിക് ഇൻസ്റ്റിങ്സ് that there is always this instinct to hunt. വേട്ടയാടാനായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു ഇൻസ്റ്റിങ്ക്റ്റ് നമ്മൾ എപ്പോഴും ഉണ്ട്. You can see how Kino is both the hunter and the hunted. Okay, he goes out into the sea to hunt for pearls. Pearls എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് you cannot easily get pearls. You have to go fishing oysters, and then you have to cut open oysters. When you cut open an oyster, you are killing the oyster. Okay, so Kino is the hunter here. So he kills a number of oysters, he destroys oysters to get wealth, and then the hunter becomes hunted. As soon as he comes in possession of the pearl of the world, as soon as he comes in possession of the biggest pearl, he becomes the hunted. The society, the entire society hunts him so that they can steal him of his possession. This has been the story of humanity for generations, and this will be the story of humanity for generations. Okay, so that is what Steinbeck wants to communicate. Hunting and being a hunter and being hunted is something that is quite natural for the human world. Okay, so അപ്പം ഒരുപാട് ഡീറ്റെയിൽസിലേക്കൊന്നും പോകുന്നില്ല. നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഡിഗ്രി ലെവലിൽ യു ഓൺലി ഹാവ് ടു നോ ദ സ്റ്റോറി, യു ഓൺലി ഹാവ് ടു നോ അബൌട്ട് ദ ക്യാരക്ടേഴ്സ്. ഞാനിവിടെ ക്യാരക്ടർ അനാലിസിസ് പോലെ ചെറിയ നോട്ടൊക്കെ തന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്, ഇതൊക്കെ വായിച്ചു നോക്കുക. ഡോക്ടറിൻ്റെ ക്യാരക്ടർ അത്ര സിഗ്നിഫിക്കൻ്റ് ഒന്നുമല്ല, എന്നാൽ പോലും ചിലപ്പം ഒരു 2 മാർക്ക് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ആയിട്ട് അങ്ങനെ വന്നാൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എന്തെങ്കിലും എഴുതാൻ സാധിക്കണം. സോ ഐ ഹാവ് കെപ്റ്റ് ദാറ്റ് ആസ് വെൽ. സമ്മറി ഞാൻ കുറച്ച് ഡീറ്റെയിൽഡ് ആയിട്ടാണ് തന്നിരിക്കുന്നത്, ബിക്കോസ് യു നീഡ് ടു ഗെറ്റ് ടു നോ അബൌട്ട് ദ ഔട്ട്ലൈൻ ഓഫ് ദ സ്റ്റോറി ഇൻ എ ബെറ്റർ ഫാഷൻ. അല്പം ഡീറ്റെയിൽഡ് ആയിട്ട് കാര്യങ്ങൾ അറിഞ്ഞിരിക്കണം, സോ ദാറ്റ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ഒക്കെ വന്നാൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ആൻസർ ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് പറ്റും. ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ വരാൻ സാധ്യതയുണ്ട് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ ഏരിയകൾ പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് ശ്രദ്ധിക്കുക. എന്തെങ്കിലും സംശയങ്ങൾ ഇതുമായിട്ട് ബന്ധപ്പെട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ചോദിക്കുക. ഓക്കെ, so see you in the next class. Bye.